Hello, and welcome to the 20th BrettCast episode, the sort of podcast where I take all of my segments and throw them into one longer video that releases a few times a month. First up is going to be movie and TV talk, where I'm going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on the Barbie movie. From there, it's going to be a triple threat of gaming talk. First, I'm going to be giving my first impressions on the game Palia. Second, I want to have a little discussion about how, without limitations, the AAA gaming space breeds no creativity. And lastly, I'm going to talk about some of the games that are releasing in 2024 that I personally am looking forward to. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the movie and TV talk segment. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on the Barbie movie. Remember, there will be spoilers, and so let's get into it. I am going to try to attempt to explain what the story of the Barbie movie is first. So, there's an entire land, essentially, where every Barbie that's ever been made lives in. And they have their dream houses and their cars and everything associated with every Barbie ever. There's also every Ken ever also, and the Kens don't have a good day unless they're acknowledged by a Barbie. Now, the Barbie that we follow throughout the movie is having a wonderful time like they do every day, until the point where she starts basically having anxiety and depression, and also becomes flat-footed for some reason. Then she goes and meets Weird Barbie, who tells her that she needs to go to the real world to find the person who is playing with her to get them to have happier thoughts. So Barbie sets out in her slow-driving car, and suddenly Ken is with her because he thinks he needs to go with her because he just wants to be, her boyfriend, because Ken doesn't have any worth unless he is with Barbie romantically. Barbie says that Ken can come along, and this is what happens to both of the characters when they go to the real world. Ken learns that men rule the world and takes a liking to the concept of the patriarchy and takes these ideas back to the Barbie world. Meanwhile, Barbie learns that the Barbies didn't help women or feminism or have all that much impact on the real world like they thought they did, and learns things like anxiety and depression and crying even more. Eventually, the CEO and other higher-ups at Mattel learn that there's a Barbie in the real world, and so they eventually get her to Mattel headquarters, wherein they want her to get in a box, and she uses the need to fix her hair as a means of escape. A mom and kid help her out, and Barbie realizes that the mom is the one who was playing with her and giving her those anxious and depressive thoughts. The group eventually goes back to the Barbie world, and when they get back, things are different. Very different. All of the Kens have established a patriarchy, so now the Kens are in charge, and the Barbies do nothing but serve the Kens, and the dream houses are in possession of the Kens as well. The main Barbie that we've been with for the duration of the movie basically gets defeatist because there's no way she can get things back to normal, and then the mom character gives a speech about how much shit women have went through, and that brings main Barbie back to reality. And then they do that to several of the other Barbies as a part of their plan to usurp the Kens. Their plan works, and the main Barbie and Ken have a conversation wherein main Ken feels like he's nothing without main Barbie, but main Barbie and main Ken, main Ken feels like he's nothing without main Barbie, but main Barbie doesn't want to be romantically involved with main Ken, and tells main Ken that he needs to figure out who he is, that he needs to basically go on a journey of self-discovery. Meanwhile, main Barbie doesn't know who she really is, and then decides that she wants to remain in the real world, and that's pretty much the story of the Barbie movie. So what did I personally think of the Barbie movie? Well, first and foremost, we all need to realize that, like all of the various Lego movies, the Barbie movie serves as one giant ad for Barbie products. That aside, there is a lot from the movie I did enjoy. The first is the attention to detail within the Barbie world, how all the houses are dream house play sets or just a Barbie playset in general, and it is especially fun seeing actual people interacting with basically life-size doll playsets. The other thing I mean when I say attention to detail is how, when main Barbie goes to shower, there's no water. When she drinks from a cup, there's no liquid in the cup. She's not eating real food. And when she wants to get from her house to the ground, she just floats down as if, someone playing with a doll would just pick it up and move it from one area to another. And I like that attention to detail. The humor was very funny, all for one joke, which I'm not going to repeat here, but overall the humor is very funny. I especially loved the really funny and goofy way that the CEO and other higher-ups of Mattel were portrayed in the movie, and that they had Will Ferrell as the CEO, which was ironic because right before that I made a comment about the similarity between this movie and the Lego movie, and then it's like, oh, you're in this movie. Now, for as much as I do have more positives than negatives about the movie, I do still have some negatives. The biggest one is that they're not subtle about the message they're trying to send with this movie. Now, that is something that can work in a movie, but they do it so much that myself and my partner found it to be annoying with how much they were beating this message over our heads. Now, what I am not saying here is whether or not I agree or disagree with the message of the movie, and I want that to be crystal clear here and now. I did actually like the conversation between main Barbie and main Ken towards the end of the movie, because I feel like main Barbie telling main Ken that he needs to figure out who he is a good thing. No one should be defined by whatever relationship they have. It doesn't have to be Barbie and Ken when Ken can be whoever he wants and can be with whoever he wants. And that's okay that Barbie doesn't want to be romantically involved with him and wants to do her own thing. I think that is a really sound and good message for a movie like this. And if you're going to come into this video and be like, blah blah blah, women and feminism are bad and you're bad, or anything along those lines, then please do us both a favor and stop watching the video. Here's the thing though. I don't think the Barbie movie is a good movie. I don't think it's a bad movie either, but it is very funny and it's very entertaining as a whole. But again, the way they kind of just mash their message into you in such an annoying way could have been handled, I think, a little bit better. Barbie is an average and entertaining movie that I do recommend giving a watch. And that's going to do it for the movie and TV talk segment. Hello, and welcome to the first part of the gaming talk segment. In this part, I'm going to be giving my first impressions on the game Palia. Let's get into it. I should probably start with what even is Palia. Palia is, as the developers like to put on the tagline of this game, a cozy MMO. There's a lot of activities in this game, and none of them involve fighting anything. There's farming, fishing, hunting, which is the closest thing this game has to combat, crafting and foraging, and you can buy and sell stuff to NPCs and from NPCs, and yes, there are NPCs and they're very colorful, not because they're like a purple color, but because they all have different personalities and are animated in a way that makes me think of a Pixar movie. I love the NPCs, actually. They're all generally cheerful, except for one of them who's kind of a bitch to you all the time, but that's fine. And I just think they're fun to interact with. Okay, so does the game have a story? Yes, because outside of all the crafting and life sim stuff that you do, there are quests. Now, some of the quests are obvious tutorial quests and get one familiar with the various systems of the game. However, the actual story of the game involves how humans are apparently a legendary race that disappeared 1,000 years before the beginning of the game, and then they just started popping by all over the world, and no one in this modern world knows why humans disappeared when they were at the height of their mastery of magic, and that's where the game begins. And the story is basically trying to understand why humans disappeared in the first place and why they're suddenly back. Now, when you start the game, you do character creation, and there's a pretty decent amount of options, but it's not the best character creation I've seen in a game. After that, you are talking to NPCs, you're given a plot of land where you will build your life. Of course, you do have to clear trees and rocks and shrubs, which serves as a tutorial of using your axe and pickaxe. You eventually gain more tools through tutorials like a fishing rod, a bow, a watering can, a hoe, and of course, how to craft at the workbench. Now, when it comes to your living space, you start with a tent that's given to you. You can make some chairs and a table and a wardrobe as part of the crafting tutorial, and eventually, after doing a quest for the mayor of this area, you're given the framework of an actual house. You place that framework down, and now you get to I get to the two aspects of the game that is kind of just a bit extreme in my opinion. So, to actually build the house, I need 100 wood planks and 35 or so bricks, which means I need a sawmill and a smelter. I did eventually get those two things, and I put them on my plot and started turning my regular wood into wood planks, and the realization hit me. I had to do 100 pieces of wood into wood planks, and it takes 1 minute to turn one wood into one wood plank. So it would take 100 minutes, or if my math is correct, 1 hour and 40 minutes for all 100 wood to become wood planks, and the stone into brick process was not any faster. But I did it, and I got the materials I needed and applied them to the house and got the screen saying that it was going to take 8 hours for my house to be built. Now, this isn't the end of the world because, I had plenty of other quests to take care of, but the point is that I find the time it takes for sawmill and smelting and even later things that I've gotten to at the time of recording this, and of course the house building, the time it takes to do all this is just super excessive and over the top, and I think could use some tweaking. Now, yes, the game is an MMO, and yes, there are other players in the world with you, and I actually like seeing other players in my MMOs because it makes the world feel more lived in. I did find it a little bit annoying that other players can just constantly friend request you over and over, and the only way to block people is to accept a friend request and then block them so they can annoy you. When, why? I don't want to accept their request because I don't know them. There are also various in-game text chats and I think one voice channel, but I don't talk to people because I want to be left alone. But the text chat is stupid. Okay, let me tell you this, because the way the text chat works is you have to press enter to bring it up is what it says in the game. But if people just start talking in it, it'll just show up, right? I find that annoying because I just want to be left alone. But here's the thing, is that when you open the text chat, it's all of the channels will be circled, right? They'll have these circles around them. And the thing is there's no way to disable the text chat. Because at first I thought, if I just uncheck all of the servers, right, and then click off, text chat goes away, I'm fine. But no, because if I go from the main area to, say, Bahari Bay, the game will then be you went from one area to another, we're going to recheck all the text channels in the chat, and the chat's going to start showing up. Or when I was in the Temple of Gales and I kept falling to my death because I wasn't getting to where I needed to go from flying around, it was every time I would fall and respawn, the text chat would do that again. And I'm like, why? Why is there no, in ESO, if I want to close if I don't want the text chat on my screen, I just hit an arrow at the left corner of the text chat, and it just hides it. And so I'm like, okay, there's got to be a way. So I do some Googling, and it's like the only true way to quote unquote disable it is to activate streamer mode with the chat off. And even when I did that, I'm sure this was a glitch, but I loaded into an area and it's like, oh, there's the text chat, and I'm like, why? I have the text chat off because of streamer mode. It's like, y'all need to fix your text chat because it's really annoying. Now, I first played this game on Switch for the first time. And yes, the game is on Switch and on PC, and well, it was alright on Switch. The game stuttered a lot and did not look that great, even playing on a TV, so I swapped to PC. Now, it was a little confusing on PC because I thought it would be on Steam, and there is a Steam page for the game that says it's coming in 2024, so if you want to play Palia on PC, you have to go to the Palia website, sign up, and then you download the PC launcher from their website. And the PC launcher says that the game is in beta, which I find interesting because on Switch it doesn't mention that, but given that I've seen forums of, Switch players having the same issues as PC players, I'm guessing that Switch players are also experiencing the beta build. But for a beta of a game, the game runs well, and I haven't had any major issues or bugs, and I want to specify major. I've had minor things, like sometimes when I'm in my crafting workbench and I go to craft something, it'll be like, you can't, and I'm like, why not? I have the thing, and it's like, because there's a bug that sometimes will make it so it won't tell you it won't show all the crafting materials you need to make something. But, that's like the most abhorrent bug that I've found in the game. Lastly, as this is an MMO, there is of course an in-game shop, which means there's microtransactions and in-game currency that you have to pay for with real money, and you know what? It's fine. I know that's not something I would usually say, but I'm saying this here because so far the only thing you can get with microtransactions is costume packs. Sure, some of the costumes are pretty cool, but I don't find it necessary to have one to enjoy the game. The only thing I find odd with the store is that there are pets called Palcats, and there are 4 variations in how they look. Now, you can't just use the in-game currency to purchase a pet, and I find that odd. You have to unlock the pets via spending the in-game currency. Yeah, like when you make your first purchase, you get to unlock one of the pets. Now, I don't know if it lets you choose which one you unlock when you make your first purchase, but yeah. But then after that, you can unlock the remaining 3 Palcats when you spend 3,000 or more of the in-game currency, which I believe is called Pal coins. That being said, I do still think that the game is fine when it comes to microtransaction as of now. But overall, I've had a pretty good time playing Palia. It's relaxing and it's fun and it can be stress relieving most of the time, in the same vein that playing Stardew Valley is, as long as you're not trying to do fishing in Stardew Valley. If you like games like Stardew Valley, Story of Seasons, Harvest Moon, or even Rune Factory, I think you will enjoy playing Palia as much as I have. Now, on to the next part. Hello, and welcome to the second part of the Gaming Talk segment. In this segment, I'm going to talk about how the AAA gaming space is sorely lacking in creativity. Let's do this. Limitations are something that no one really wants to have to deal with, but if there is one thing I know, it's that limitations often breeds the best type of creativity. There are tons of examples where various types of limitations do great things. Oftentimes it would be technical limitations of older consoles and even PC technology, so game developers would have to work around these sorts of things. Think of how the original Silent Hill game, they couldn't render full levels because of technical limitations of the PS1, so they put fog in, and now that's a staple of the Silent Hill franchise. Diablo 1 is also a great example. They couldn't have a million demons on screen, so the player had to be creative because those demons could take you out pretty easily. They had to be creative and funnel them through doorways to get them to be taken out one by one. I like to think that when it comes to indie games, their biggest limitation is usually budget. This is how sometimes an indie game would say utilize something like pixel graphics over ultra realistic graphics, and then this theoretical game has a super awesome release and is popular, and one of those reasons that people love it is because of pixel graphics, and it's a wonderful thing, and we all know of some of these kinds of games like Stardew Valley and Dead Cells, and I love that. What am I getting at here though? Well, I think that the AAA game developers, since they don't have any kind of limitations, which is most of the AAA games that have been coming out, there has been a very clear lack of creativity. Every game has to be big, every game has to be open world, and every game has to be modern or sci-fi fantasy. Every game has to be, the one single player game, or the one single game that you, the player, are going to sink all of your time and money on and never play another game for years and years to come. Think of your Halo Infinites, that they wanted that to be the next 10 years of Halo, which didn't happen, obviously. Or think of how, a lot of multiplayer games just keep coming back. Look at Fortnite. I mean, okay, Fortnite's very successful, but still, they just keep adding to Fortnite. Yes, you are going to be, if you get sucked into it, playing Fortnite for years and years and years and years to come. And that's all these people want. Now, upon seeing some interviews and things with AAA game developers, there are some things I picked up on that are a few of the things that they care about. The first and probably most important thing is that they care about the amount of things that the player has to do. Yeah, these developers would rather, for example, have the player be able to explore 1,000 randomly generated planets or 120 dungeons, but what they don't think about is the quality of these sorts of things. Sure, you gave the player 1,000 randomly generated planets to explore, but 98% of those randomly generated planets have about as much depth to them as a puddle, and it's a waste of time. Most players would rather have a smaller amount of places to explore, so long as that there are more meaningful things in those explorable areas, and I don't understand why AAA developers don't understand that this is what players want. I feel like that is a AAA game developer thing as a whole, is that they just don't understand what the players want. I think that shows in a lot of ways, but look at how game developers like to promote their games in trailers and interviews. These people love, buzzwords or buzz phrases, let's say. The things that get people excited. They'll throw around, what genre the game is, They'll be like, Starfield is a open world, RPG game. This is an MMO. This is a third-person looter, stuff like that. They'll use phrases like, this is going to be the game that you play for the next 10 years. It's genre defining. It's got a massive open world. It has as many guns as, an armory. It's got so many guns, right? that's got character customization that is beyond belief, and so on. A good example is how they touted the exploration aspect in all of the marketing for Starfield, and then in actuality, there's very little exploration in the game considering how much time is spent fast traveling into loading screens and cutscenes. With all of this, look at how poorly a lot of these games did upon release. Starfield has been destroyed by everyone. Diablo 4 kept getting worse. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 should have just stayed DLC for Modern Warfare 2 2022, because that was a terrible mess as well. All of these games have huge budgets and huge teams of people working on them. They have the best freaking graphics out there. So why and how do they release these kinds of games in such a poor state? Because these AAA developers have zero limitations that they have to creatively work around, which could very well lead to something that could make these games a hell of a lot better. But no, these AAA game developers, they're just comfortable releasing the same slop all of the time. There is very little difference between Modern Warfare 2 2022 and Modern Warfare 3 2023. Diablo 4 is in a much worse state than Diablo 3 could ever be, and I will go to the grave with that. I don't care about the auction house thing that Diablo 3 had. Starfield manages to be worse than Fallout 4 and Skyrim combined, and probably even Fallout 76. Far Cry 6 is the same as Far Cry 3, 4, and 5. Every single Assassin's Creed game is basically the same, no matter how many times they rework the formula just to copy the formula for 3 games and then decide to rework the formula for Assassin's Creed Mirage again, which was just a mediocre game. Like, what's the point that you just stop? You know? Like, Ubisoft is the absolute worst offender of the problem of driving their franchises into the ground, too. Assassin's Creed is so far gone, they just need to stop. Far Cry has not been good since Far Cry 3. Ghost Recon has been on a break since Breakpoint in 2019. I think it's fine if they never return to Ghost Recon. I think that Nintendo should give the Zelda series a break. Tears of the Kingdom, many people think it's a masterpiece. I'd say that it's just everything from Breath of the Wild with a few new things in there. Could have been DLC. Call of Duty franchise needs to stop for a while. That series is the definition of the same slop every year, because the game will have a mid-campaign, mid-multiplayer, and zombies, because it's not Call of Duty without zombies. I don't hate AAA game developers or the games they make. I don't. It's also not like AAA game developers are the only ones that reach for the stars and fall flat most of the time. Look at something like Star Citizen. Those developers seem to think they have no limitations, so they just keep picking and choosing features to the point that most people don't even think that the game will ever release in a full state. And of course, I can't not mention the bottom of the barrel that is the day before. And at this point, I think we all know how that went down when the developers delisted the game from Steam after 4 days. I don't know what, but something really needs to change in the AAA games landscape. These people need to stop churning out the same thing. Stop, just stop. Take a look at these things. Take a long, hard look at your franchises and just do something else. I don't know what, but there's gotta be something. But we're gonna go on to the last part. Hello, and welcome to the third and final part of the Gaming Talk segment. In this part, I'm going to be talking about some of the games of 2024 that I am looking forward to. Let's get into it. First up, I am looking forward to what Lost Ark has coming up in 2024. But what does Lost Ark have coming up in the first part of 2024? Well, in January, there's going to be the added Inferno difficulty coming to Legion raids, which I have not done since I'm still in the story. In February, there's going to be the game's second anniversary celebration, which will have lots of in-game events and rewards, and the Valton Extreme Raid will also be returning for this. In March, we're getting the new class called the Breaker class, which from what I see from the artwork, is very much a martial arts class. We're also getting the Light of Destiny story quests, so yay, more story quests, which makes me happy. The Thamen Prelude quests will also happen in that month as well, so yay, more story quests again, which makes me happy. Finally, April is when the Thamen story quests begin. There's also going to be new Transcendence gear progression system that will let people reinforce and improve their gear's basic effect with ancient powers sealed within ruins, and will be manifested through increased damage and defense. And finally, there will be the Vescal Guardian raid as well. Second thing that I'm looking forward to is the Warframe 1999 expansion. What was in the trailer looks pretty cool. I hope it's far, far better than Duviri Paradox and far easier than that expansion was. I'm also curious what the new expansion will teach us about the lore and story within Warframe. Third and final thing that I'm looking forward to is Endzone 2. Now, I know that seems kind of stupid because I gave Endzone a World Apart the worst game I played in 2023, and that was mostly because of the constant crashing. I genuinely hope that Endzone 2 is far better optimized, that it runs super well without crashing all the time, because the actual gameplay in Endzone A World Apart was really fun and relaxing. And the soundtrack was freaking awesome too. Obviously this may not happen, but I truly hope that Endzone 2 is good because I want to be able to play it. And yeah, it's a short list, but that's what I'm looking forward to in 2024 as of now. There could have been more, but I mean, a lot of stuff from the lists I was looking at was just like JRPGs and shit that I don't care about, or sequels to games I didn't like Space Marine 2 or something like that. But yeah, that's all I got there, and that's gonna do it for the Gaming Talk segment. And that's also going to do it for the 20th BrettCast episode. If you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I may even answer a question or discuss a comment in a future episode. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.